Now, you can't take these things as gospel, right? I'm just sharing with you my observations, my understanding, my beliefs, etc. I always believed that the human body is a machine. It is Pandora's box. It is incredibly powerful. It is a device. And that it is capable of far more than we were ever told. Just as there is an enormous amount we have never been told. The education systems don't tell you the truth. They don't equip you holistically for your journey on the earth plane or anywhere else. Education's wonderful, but we have to seek truth. You know, what is the body capable of? What is the mind capable of? What is the mind? Is the mind you? Or is it a tool at your disposal? To what extent do we master the tools at our disposal, including the body? And so, although I practiced yoga for many years, the Kundalini experience made me realize that the physical is absolutely interwoven with the immaterial, the spiritual, and that we have to address the whole and not just see things in isolation. So whenever you are on your yoga mat, I really encourage you to remember that the physical movement is one part of a crucial part of the opportunity to better understand yourself, to empower yourself, to purify yourself, and to gain access to far more of what's actually available for you. Now, if you think for a moment about the world we live in, if you watch the news, you realize that something's wrong, something's very wrong. There's a huge disconnect. And it affects everyone, everything, each insect, the ocean, everything is alive, and everything is affected by what's occurring. There's an amazing man who's now in spirit. His name is Albert Benjamin. He wrote under the name of C.C. Zain, Z-A-I-N. He said many powerful things. And one of my favorite quotes from Zain is this: harmony is life. Discord is death on all planes of existence. So, if I had come here in a foul mood, and didn't make much effort and talked a load of nonsense, I would be killing your inspiration somehow. I'd be spoiling your workshop. If we went to lunch and we argued, we would be killing our lunch. Our interest in each other would be stifled or destroyed. And maybe your day would be spoiled. So harmony is life, and discord is death on all planes of existence, whether you're on the earth plane here or at some other point we're on another plane of existence. This principle, harmony is life, discord is death, applies. So imagine you're in a relationship with somebody and it's highly discordant. That's not good. Enough discord in different forms does kill. And it's all pervading. And each of us needs to identify discord in our lives, in the world, all around us, and within us, and transmute that discord into harmony. Because harmony is life. And wherever we are, we should live life. Because there's so much available to us, so much magic. So remember that this simple principle can change everything. And you probably know it only takes a certain number of individual units to transform for the whole to transform. So when we look at the news, we hear about all the things that go on in the world and we get upset about it. We should not forget that going within ourselves, doing the inner work, does change the whole. But if we go back to the world at large, let's have a think. So we all have these wonderful cell phones, and everyone's got constant and immediate access to you. How do you stay harmonious with so many pieces of information and disruptions? Are these devices actually harmonious for us, or is it that we're just not using them in a harmonious manner, that we're falling into the trap of distracted, unfocused materialism? But if you imagine we're living in a very different time. Imagine we go back hundreds or thousands of years. We didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have television. We would have lived in accordance to nature. So people often say to me, when it comes to astrology, which I'll talk about quite a lot in a moment, people say, well, how did they how did they know? How did they discover that everything that occurs on Earth is somehow mirrored or described by or interconnected with the planetary movements in our solar system? Well, the answer is, well, they weren't watching TV. They weren't sending text messages. They were living with nature. So they were actually looking at the heavens above. And they saw correlations that nobody can deny. So they were observing nature. They knew that if you wean your lambs under a full moon, your lambs are going to be a nightmare for a number of days. They knew through observation, through experience, that nature was conducive to weaning lambs under a certain phase of the moon, and that if you did it under a certain phase of the moon, the lambs would be just fine. They knew that if you dig a hole in your yard and you remove the earth, you remove some soil, some dirt, some earth, they knew that depending on the phase of the moon, that soil, that dirt that you removed, might not fill the hole if you put it straight back in there. They knew that at other times, other phases of the moon, it might fill the hole and you might have some left over. So they knew that conditions were constantly changing. They knew that we were subjected to many cycles. We know that hurricanes are catastrophic when there's a full moon, because full moon, or the moon, controls liquids. She influences the movement of the oceans. When I set out on my little path to do the work I wanted to do, I presumed that I would be working with individuals. And I do, I work with individuals, but I didn't imagine there would be an enormous opportunity and demand for consulting, just doing the same work for hedge fund managers that want to know how they can predict the market, why the markets do certain things. Well, they're entities, just as we are entities, just as my dog is an entity. I didn't imagine that there would be inquiries asking about, well, when will be the next flare-up between Israel and the Gaza Strip. I never imagined it would go in all of those different directions. I remember having coffee once with a hedge fund manager, a really successful hedge fund manager, and she said to me, how do I know that the planets and planetary conditions in our solar system affect the markets? I said, well, which software do you use? And she told me the name of the software that she used, the hedge fund software that she used. And I said, you'll find that all of the finest analytical tools for the markets that you guys are using, they all have an astrology module. Point made, right? That they all have an astrology module, because that's a critical form of insight. But you see, when we were involved with nature, we were far more connected to deity, to the source, to the creator. And sadly, collectively in the world, we are now we're divorced from deity. I mean, we're highly divorced from nature and deity. And the balance between spiritualism and materialism is completely messed up. So we're all focused on the material, and it doesn't work. It's discordant. Nature shows us when we're out of sync. So when dolphins are being washed up in the thousands, dead on a beach in Australia, nature's trying to tell us something. The dolphins took a hit. They took one for the team. They're trying to show us there's a problem. And we should be aware of all feedback indicating discord. So if you go to work and you feel miserable, there's an opportunity to eliminate discord, to create harmony. And so by us practicing yoga, by us healing ourselves, by us purifying ourselves, eliminating discord, creating harmony, we have an enormous opportunity. And if we do all of this by getting closer to nature, putting materialism in perspective, and investing in our spiritual selves, our spiritual development, then the world will change little by little, but your world will change. So think of the balance, right? Now, the planets, our ancestors, we laugh at them because they spoke of the planets as gods, didn't they? Gave them names. It was a way of recognizing that the planets are alive. If you think of humanity, think of man, and I use the term man there consciously, specifically, just as I'm going to change a Lao Tzu quote for you to woman. In fact, I'll just read you the quote. Actually, firstly, I'm going to note it's a Sophocles quote that I want to read you, because it relates to what I was saying before about the potential of the body, of the device, and all of the non-physical parts of you as well. Sophocles said, "Wonders are many, and none more wonderful than woman." But man has focused upon selfishness, generally, conflict, etc. But if we go back to our heritage, go back to our ancestors, cultures that have long gone, and we do that seeking truth, when we can actually acknowledge that the reason they gave the planets names and characters was because they're alive. Like it or not, believe it or not, planets are alive. The Earth is alive. She is a conscious being, just as Venus is a conscious being, just as Saturn is a conscious being. Everything is alive, and it'll be a very, very long time before any of us is sufficiently evolved to become a planet. So they gave the planets names and characters. They told stories, myths. I don't know why we use that term, because it's a way of just conveying the truth. But if you think, for example, each planet has its basic nature, just as each of you has your basic nature, right? Your strengths, your liabilities, etc. Your work in progress. Now, Saturn his basic nature is malefic. His basic nature is discordant, right? So if you're growing a crop, and we profile the crop, and we see that, you know, we've got a real nasty Saturn in awful condition, ruling your crop, you're going to lose your crop completely, or it's going to be a terrible yield, like, you know, not so many apples this year, and they don't even taste nice. No one wants to buy them. Jupiter is benefic. The Romans referred to Jove, the good god. So my grandmother would say, by Jove, you know, this is an expression, but if you look at language, you find truth. If you look at the sky, you'll see the truth. If you look at nature, you'll find any answer you're looking for. We just have to look. So she would say, well, by Jove, Steve, you did so well in your math exam. Now, she didn't realise the depth of what's being said. What's being said is, by Jove, you did really well in your math exam. What's being said is, Jupiter must have been highly favourable towards you at the time you did your math exam, because you did really well. So Jove is the good god. And Satan is not a man with red horns. He's a reference to Saturn. Saturn, Satan. Jupiter, jovial, joy. And so, quite simply, if you look at the planet, look at the condition of planets in a natal chart, in your natal chart, or the chart of a nation, or the chart of a business, or chart of a weather system, the chart of anything, you know, Saturn is generally describing opportunities for purification, the elimination of discord, just as is Mars, because he's a half dose of Saturn. He works for Saturn. Just as Venus, the minor benefic, she works for Jupiter. She's a half dose of Jupiter, right? So if we think of a discordant Saturn, and we sort of consider, well, how does a discordant Saturn express itself in our world? Well, we get things like consumerism, waste, toxicity, environmental abuse, programming, overconsumption of power, and a very limited paradigm. But if we consider how beautiful Jupiter in great condition can express himself, we have things like opportunity, benevolence, expansion, abundance, generosity, faith, truth, harmony with nature, good fortune, love, family, nurturance. We are not physical beings. You're a non-physical entity that is currently incarnated into a physical form, because on the earth plane, the material plane, you must have a physical carriage. It's yours. It's to be honoured, it's to be worshipped. It is your temple. but it's part of you. And it's a part of you that actually you don't require on other planes of existence. So I mean, when people ask me about the law of attraction and manifestation, and they say, how do I learn to manifest? And I say, well, I'm looking at a body, so you're already doing it. You manifested a body. You orchestrated things that belong to the earth plane to form a body, a carriage that you could travel in, a temple that you could worship in, whilst you're having your experiences and opportunities on the earth plane. But it's not what you are. Now, Lao Tzu said, the flexible is always superior to the immovable. The flexible is always superior to the immovable. So it relates to yoga, right? Flexing the body, unleashing the potential of the body. It relates to the mind. It relates to our characters as well, right? A rigid character is going to have problems. The flexible is always superior to the immovable. Lao Tzu also said that talked about the principle of controlling things by bringing oneself into tune with them. It's the principle of mastery through harmony. If you have a dog, look at what happens when you get on the floor and you're on your hands and knees and you behave like a dog. It's quite exciting to engage in something that way. And you'll see how nature will change and will react differently, to respond differently to you, depending on how you're functioning. So the principle of controlling things by bringing oneself into tune with them, and the principle of mastery through harmony. So if you think about society, right? Society doesn't have all the answers. It doesn't have your culture or all of the cultures that you've learned about or experienced. They don't necessarily all have the truth or offer you the truth. The education system doesn't either. And so we have to engage in a process of never-ending reflection and study and meditation to discover the truth. So you've probably all heard the term "know thyself." It's critical. It's critical to the law of attraction, of creating what you want to create in your life and around you. You have to go within yourself to know what you're dealing with in order to identify the opportunities for purification, right? Know what you're eating. Is it full of sugar that is discordant? It turns to cancer feeds off sugar. Know thyself, and also explore everything around you for truth, but don't presume that your school teacher was telling you the truth, because your school teacher's part of the system, part of the paradigm. So you have to sort of test and validate things for yourselves. Freemasons know a lot about metaphysics. They won't tell you, but they know a lot about metaphysics. We say, don't we? We're told knowledge is power. It's true. That's why if you want to control others, you don't give them all the knowledge. You just have them regurgitate corny expressions like knowledge is power. But Freemasons release truth you have to earn it, right? So they release it little by little. You've got to get to an extremely high level within a secret society to, get access to the real good stuff. But the roles that Freemasons play in ceremony are astrological roles, by the way. If you chat with a Freemason that says that's not true, tell them to go and ask about it properly, because they are absolutely astrological or allegorical roles that they each play in ceremony. And again, I used to, when I was sort of interviewed in the past, I would get, skeptics would ask questions, and I'd talk for ages, explaining why, they're wrong and this is for real. And now my attitude is just go away and study it properly, and then you'll realize that there's nothing for us to talk about in terms of your skepticism. Your skepticism will dissolve. And if you go away and you study it and you study the good stuff and you come back telling me it's nonsense, you've got a learning disability. Or you're coming back and saying that you did it when you didn't. So seek purification, your diet. You want to get rid of toxins. If you've got toxic friends, you have to address the issue and transmute it. And make choices at times. If you can't change another person, make choices about good foods, about your yoga, about the extent to which you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you don't love me. You can't, because we're all part of the same thing. We are electromagnetic. Your soul is non-physical and it doesn't reside on the earth plane. Newsflash. The human body, human brain, interacts with the soul through electromagnetism. And when the electromagnetic functioning is shut down, we expire. We leave the body. The pineal releases DMT, activates the pituitary gland that enables us to exit the physical shell that is returned to the earth. And so the term to expire is exit spirit. So you go and look at the cabbage in Kroger and it looks rough because it's at its expiration date. It's because its spirit is leaving. It's expiring. We expire. But consciousness doesn't expire. You can't destroy energy. But your human body, your human brain interacts with your soul through electromagnetism. Electromagnetism is the positive, dynamic, masculine energy of the sun in our solar system. The sun is the positive end of the battery. The magnetic is the polar opposite, the feminine, receptive, passive of the moon. So moon, magnetic. So we have the conscious awareness, we have the subconscious, and we have the unconscious. The subconscious is a sort of filter between the conscious and the unconscious. If you think of an iceberg and a little piece above the water, that's the conscious, and then the vast majority of it is the unconscious. The unconscious part of oneself is it's the soul. You're constantly feeding off and from your own soul. And that's why we don't always get what we want. Knowing oneself, purifying oneself, makes you more powerful. It gives you a much stronger connection to your own soul. And you can do far more. But again, we're energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It changes, but it cannot be destroyed. So Zane said, he was asked, what is the soul? And he said, well, the soul is the totality of its experiences and the way in which they've been integrated. So I doubt that there's anyone in the room that believes that they didn't exist before they were born onto this earth plane. If you have children, you know that they came out different from the beginning, right? It's not like we're these blank sheets of paper that only form our individual natures, from birth through the things that occur. So your soul is everything you ever experienced. And this lifetime is just one little footstep in a never-ending journey. So gaining greater access to oneself is enormous. Because your soul, your unconscious, will completely override your conscious, right? If you have a history of miserable relationships, you have to go in and address that and change yourself. Otherwise, you'll just recreate what's familiar. So again, Zane said the soul is the totality of its experiences and the way that they've been integrated, right? So we've all experienced good things and bad things, right? You look at your chart and you can see with the discord and where it'll express itself in your life, and if you know what you're doing, you can calculate which day it will happen. And you can see your innate talents. So one of the problems with the education system is that we don't look at children and say, you are unique. You have incredible innate talents that come so easily. You don't even have to try. And it's our job now to identify these and bring them to the forefront, and also to make sure that you have, the required level of functioning in other areas to be successful in life. We don't do that. We treat it like a sausage machine. We want them all to come out the same way. So your astrology chart shows your alchemy, shows what you are, it shows what you're working with, it shows the totality of your experiences and the way they've been integrated. And knowledge is power. So it presents enormous opportunities. Now I know that you've sort of had a focus, I think that you've had quite a focus in your program upon self-purification, right? Identifying and trying to get beyond your own issues. We've all got them, right? And they're a product of your past experiences. And you see, everything is interconnected. So if you had a bad experience in this lifetime, or you had bad experiences in previous lifetimes, they're part of you, and you have to go in and change the programming and the wiring. And you see, it's all stored in your body. It's very predictable where your health issues will arise. There'll be a reflection of your previous experiences of life, your discords, and the chart maps in which part of your body it will express itself and when. So all the proactive things we do to purify the body and the mind and the soul, they're incredibly powerful, huge opportunities. But you can't remove trauma from a person just through therapy, or just through, say, a therapy and a medication. It has to be removed from the body. So just as the experience I had with Kundalini was an outcome, a product based upon all the different things I've been doing, I guess. An opposite experience of having a problem with the body is to do with discord. So in your program, please don't see your yoga as separate from your spiritual development, as separate from your happiness, as separate from your health, as separate from your magical and alchemical abilities, law of attraction, manifestation, all of that. It's all together. And don't forget the importance of not only the movement of the body, but the movement of self, of becoming different. Saying, well, when I do X, Y, Z, that never works for me. I wouldn't encourage someone else to do that, so I'm going to change. I'm not going to do that. Again, the flexible is always superior to the immovable. But remember things like massage, body work. You have to get it out of the body. It's stored in the body as well. So if you seek to overcome issues, if you seek to eliminate, get rid of trauma and this, that, and the other, you also have to get it out of the body. If you read about alchemy, it's quite fascinating because we've been told this story about how certain things that all of our ancestors were trying to do and focused upon were that's just a load of nonsense. You can't have only the sun and not the moon. We have to have balance. We have to have harmony to create. And we think of alchemy. If you think of the alchemists, working with metals and heating some up and trying to purify them, eliminate dross to purify, so that you create gold, and that can be done. Just as you can unleash the power and potential of what you are, you're a god. You're a universe. In fact, each cell in your body is a solar system. Each cell in your body has a light, a sun. So you orchestrated these cells to come together for your chariot, your carriage. But the alchemist was identifying and relinquishing dross. And in the context of materialism, the objective was to create gold. Pure gold. Now, why would you want to create pure gold? Well, because it's valuable. If you think that the Queen of England has, that they have all these incredible, priceless jewels and crystals, gems, etc., in their ceremonial items, you think that's just, to make them look pretty, you're wrong. Because of their alchemical abilities, that's why the coronation ceremony is partly private, because there's ceremonial magic. And the timing is always chosen very carefully. So Prince William is the Sun King, born on the summer solstice. Kate is the moon. All deliberate. Diana was treated like cattle. She was bred at a particular time, and she was forced into a C-section at a particular time. Because powerful people know about the importance of timing, So one of the big elements that's missing from the law of attraction and manifestation is timing. Alchemists did certain things at certain times, right? You don't wean your lambs under a full moon, just as you don't tell your partner that they're really pissing you off under a full moon. It's not the time. Just as you don't apply water to your wooden floors when the moon is waxing, especially if the moon is waxing, increasing in light in a water sign, you get absorption of water. So if you apply water to your wooden floors, if you steam your wooden floors when the moon is waxing, don't be surprised when it starts to crack, because that's nature. If you want, if you have a massage, for example, massages prevent illness, by the way. If you want to lose weight, do it when the moon's waning. We lose more weight when the moon's waning. When the moon's waxing, when she's increasing in light, she's benefic, she's bountiful. Eat. It's okay. You won't put on as much weight. When she's waning, when she's decreasing in light, she's letting go. So you lose weight easily. It's just nature. But massages prevent illness, right? Because they relax and stabilize the heart and circulation. They stimulate the organs, right? Because we want the organs to eliminate dross, don't we? We don't want to hold on to it. And they improve blood pressure. Now, if you wanted to, for example, if you wanted to have a massage for relaxation, for detoxification, for weight loss, right? So relaxation, letting go of tension, detoxification, letting go of toxins, weight loss, losing, dropping, letting go of weight. You do it when the moon's waning. Because the human body is not above and beyond nature. Everyone discovers that at the end of this little chapter. The reason the Great Pyramid has its sarcophagus, doesn't it? We talk of the sarcophagus. Well, it's not a sarcophagus. There was never a body in it. There are hardly any pyramids that had any pharaohs in them. You won't find many pyramids that had a pharaoh in them. That story is a bunch of nonsense. They're devices, they're power generators, and they do many other things. And that's why the initiates, the advanced initiates, would be put in the pyramids, is because certain things only become possible in certain places in certain ways, right? If you want a massage to regenerate, to strengthen the body, if you want and use oils and all of that and you want those oils to be absorbed, you do it when the moon is waxing. That's when the body wants to absorb. That's when the body wants to eat. Don't be fooled into thinking that the fasts, the religious fasts, are just random. That somebody said, "Oh, it would be a wonderful idea for everybody to do a fast at such and such a time." It's because of nature. It's because that's when nature's conducive to fasting. The one thing I'd say about massage, if you need massage for, say, lymph drainage, or because you've got an injury, you've got an inflammation, then you do it as soon as possible, regardless of the moon. You want to get it out the system as quickly as you can. Okay. Remember, everything's connected. If you know about reflexology, you know that an unhealthy foot is describing an unhealthy body, and an unhealthy body is describing an unhealthy status quo. Right, so we should really pay attention to our feet. I had a reflexologist in the UK. She was amazing, Victoria, and she used to come to my home every Thursday, and I was always exhausted by my job. And she would touch your feet, and she'd say, "Did you eat a load of strawberries yesterday?" And you'd say, "Yeah, I had a big, massive punnet." She'd say, "Oh, that's not good. I can feel that in your body." It's unbelievable. So remember that poor footwear does not only damage your foot, it damages your whole body. So remember also things like when you're doing yoga, you're opening yourself up, aren't you? But you're doing other things, right? So my sun salutation, Let me receive and be and savour the strength, energy and dynamism of the sun. Let me bow to in reverence for the sun of God. God placed, it's the source of energy. God placed it in our solar system for us. Fortunately, we can't really get close enough to that to damage it at this point, but give us time. But remember that the sarcophagus that's not a sarcophagus was empty for a number of reasons. One of them was this: all that material, you're not taking it with you. This is empty. We don't take anything material with us. We won't take anything material with us. We only take out our soul. It's just the soul. We revert to the soul fully. It's like you check out a hotel. Thank you. It's a key card. I had stayed. It was nice. Thank you. Don't need that room anymore. The only thing we'll take with us is our growth. So everything you do spiritually, energetically, alchemically, to purify yourself, your character, including the body, etc., that releases enormous potential, all of that you take with you. Because it's non-physical. But don't be upset if your latest, malfunctioning iPhone isn't there at the pearly gates. There's a really great story. I know we've got to wrap up in a moment, haven't we? I could ramble on forever. There's a really great story about a Mark Twain story about some guy arrives at heaven, and I can't remember, it was Archangel Michael or Gabriel, whoever. And they do exist, actually. The angels absolutely exist. They're highly purified beings, far more purified than planets. They're closer to the Godhead. So this guy arrives at the pearly gates, and Archangel Gabriel, or whoever, I can't remember which one it was, I'm sorry, says, okay, well, before you go, is there anything you'd like to know? And this guy says, you know what? My whole life, I always wondered who was the greatest military leader of all time. And the Archangel says, oh, just that guy over there. And he says, well, I knew that guy. He was a carpenter. Yes. But the greatest military leader of all time, if he'd been a military leader. So again, it's a question of knowing oneself and discovering what you are and being in flow. And nature will respond. I'm going to tell you very quickly a couple of the things I have on my notes that I just wanted to throw into the pot. All information is available. Look around you and look up. The original alphabet was an observation of the constellations, and they formed consonants based upon the constellations. And they didn't have vowels because the planets are the vowels, and the planets move through the consonants like music, right? But God is constantly documenting, writing, describing everything, journaling everything. God's journal is in front of you. It tells you anything and everything you want to know if you look at it. The ancient Hebrew alphabet was taken from the Chaldaic alphabet. Again, no vowels. The esoteric, the spiritual opportunity of alchemy was to create spiritual gold, to purify oneself. The golden child, untouchable, can't be destroyed. You can't destroy gold. That's why an enormous amount of gold is hoarded, and the vast majority of gold on planet Earth was removed. It was removed because it has enormous alchemical properties. It's like the Great Pyramid was built at exactly that point because it's where ley lines cross, and it aligns with Orion's belt, and the sun is directly above at the summer solstice, etc.
It's like the exact center of the earth.
Yeah. And the sarcophagus actually is a documentation of the dimensions of the earth and how far we are from the moon and the sun and this, that, and the other. So let's see. Oh, breathing. Don't forget breath work, right? Electromagnetics. You have to breathe. Clients that are hospice nurses, and they say, I know exactly how long the person has left based upon how the family have positioned the bed. Nature. It's nature. Okay? Just very briefly with astrology, I mean, basically, the elements that are available on Earth, they are used to create. So anything and everything that's created on Earth is created through some combination of the elements. And the planetary conditions at any point in time are describing what's occurring, what's available alchemically, right? So, you know, if you like working in your garden, if you like growing fruit or etc., you'll find it works out far better if you follow all the rules about what to do when. Right? If you move a hydrangea into the wrong phase of the moon, it'll be dead in the morning. In one of my classes, one of my online classes, I have this little section, it's called Grow a Pear. And it says you go and buy two flowering plants that are the same, right? Plant one of them and it tells you the instructions, and it's a real discordant time. It's the absolutely wrong time to plant it. And then plant the other one following these instructions, and you will see that one dies. And everyone's like, it does. I'm like, yeah, it's not. I mean, the problem with astrology is 99.9% of the information out there on the internet is a bunch of nonsense. It was clever, wasn't it? Put it right in front of people, and stir it up.
Hide in plain sight, right?
Hide it right in front of your nose. Yeah. It's like, let's tell everybody that, you know, astrology's a load of nonsense. Don't look up. Look at Desperate Housewives. Well then, why were so many popes astrologers? Why does the Vatican to this day still have one of the world's finest observatories in North America? If you want the truth, you probably need to get into the libraries, the Vatican vaults. That's where many things are hidden. And that's why very wealthy people, they pay a lot of money for manuscripts and things like that. You know, museums all around the world they hoard tablets that document the truth. They're not translated. I mean, they're not there for you to see. They're in basements. So let's wrap up. But let me just remind you then. So the flexible is always superior to the immovable. The principle of controlling things by bringing oneself into tune with them, right? If you want your dog to behave, get in tune with your dog, and it'll do what you want it to do. The principle of mastery through harmony. Harmony is life, discord is death. Materialism versus spiritualism. Oh, but remember that scientific discovery only mirrors human evolution, and it will always lag behind the truth. Okay? Evolution is not linear. Right? I might be going backwards, you might be going forwards. I might be becoming more toxic, you might be becoming more purified. Right? Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be changed. No one can, you can't kill me, by the way, sorry. Cut my head off, I'm not dead. I died 3 times in my 20s and was resuscitated 3 times. It was amazing.
I recommend it to everyone.
Don't do it. But no, I arrived in spirit, and there are not words that can describe it. And I was asked, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to stay here, but my family will be devastated. And then I was resuscitated again. I had this paramedic beating the hell out of me and screaming at me to stay away. Remember that thoughts do create. Manage your every ounce of energy, your every movement, your every thought. Okay? And you can create heaven on earth. You don't have to live in the grotty paradigm that everybody else is living in. You don't have to. You create your own little world. You can create heaven on earth. You can create it anywhere. And if you learn to do it here, you'll do it far more easily when you're not here. We seek to be a balanced whole, and that's each cell in the body, right? Just as each human being is one cell within humanity. Remember this, right? When stuff comes up You know, why me? Why this? Why that? Why did that happen to me? Why did this happen? Why am I like this? Blah blah blah. Why am I not? Or whatever. You know, remember that. But resistance is required for development. Right? Resistance is required for development. If you take a seed and you just put it on top of the soil, dead. It needs the resistance of the soil, of the earth. It needs to struggle to create. This is a brilliant one. Resistance is required for development. And you remember as well that cause and effect, the law of cause and effect. So do unto others as we would have them do unto us. We reap what we sow.
Will you read that science quote again, just about science mirrors human evolution?
Oh, that's just mine, actually.
It's great.
One of them is, I will do that one again. This is a good one. I asked about the law of attraction and manifestation. And I said, so, give me a line then that just sort of describes this. And this is what I was told. Life does not give you what you want. Life gives you what you need. If you don't like what you're getting, you must change what you are.